7 years ago, we set out to rebuild Canada, strong and free. Il y a 7 ans, nous avons entrepris de rebâtir le Canada, fort et libre.
That work is well begun, and it is within our grasp to make that dream come true, to become a country that is as prosperous, as united, and as strong as it can be. The best country in the world, but always striving to be more.
We have proceeded on the conviction that we must live within our means, make sound, long-term decisions, and reward those who work hard and play by the rules. Nous sommes allés de l'avant en sachant que nous devons vivre selon nos moyens, prendre des décisions sensées et à long terme, et récompenser le dur travail et ceux qui respectent les règles.
Because for good to happen in this world, someone must speak up for these values and have the will and the capacity to act so that these values are not mere sentiment. It is our purpose that Canada must be great. It must be great for all Canadians. It must be a country of hope and an example to the world. And only when it is these things, when Canada is all that it can be, only then can we say that our work is done. Bonsoir, good evening, everyone. Are you having fun? You're going to have even more fun later. Chers amis, c'est un véritable plaisir de me retrouver parmi vous ici ce soir. Friends, it's wonderful to be with the Conservative family here in Calgary, Canada's great city on the bow. Now, friends, we all know what happened to Calgary and to much of southern Alberta this past June. Et nous nous souvenons des terribles événements à Lac-Mégantic qui ont volé des êtres chers à tant de gens. Those Canadians most closely affected by these tragic events remain in our thoughts and prayers. Yet we were also inspired. Lorene saw what I saw. We were inspired by how Canadians responded to these disasters, their courage, their generosity, and as you see here, their passion to rebuild through hell or high water. It makes you proud to be Canadian. Now, friends, some of you will remember that just a little over 2 years ago, we gathered here in Calgary. Canadians had just given us, come on, say it with me, a strong, stable, national majority Conservative government. Les Canadiens et Canadiennes nous ont envoyés à Ottawa avec un mandat clair. Canadians sent us to Ottawa with clear instructions. Créer des emplois et protéger notre économie dans un monde incertain. Create jobs and protect our economy amid global uncertainty. Maintenir des taxes et des impôts bas. Keep taxes down. Protéger nos enfants et nos communautés contre les criminels. Protect our children and our communities from criminals. Défendre notre pays. Et ceux qui travaillent fort paient leurs impôts et respectent les règles. Stand up for our country. For those who work hard, pay their taxes, and play by the rules. Et mes amis, c'est ce que nous faisons, and friends, that's exactly what we've done day in and day out. We're facing tough choices. We're making the right decisions for Canada for the right reasons, and my friends, the results are clear. Dans un monde en difficulté, le Canada brille. In a world that is struggling, Canada is rising. Canada is rising, being steadily lifted by a rising tide. Our sound finances, our stable politics, our expanding network of trade relationships, our natural wealth, and the growing demand for it worldwide, and above all, the ingenuity of our people. These assets are now aligned and present a rare, a unique moment of national opportunity. Our Conservative government will not miss this tide. We will seize this moment. Nous allons assurer la prospérité des Canadiens maintenant, de nos enfants et des générations à venir. We will secure prosperity now for our children and for the generations to come. Nous, les conservateurs, on dit ce qu'on va faire et on fait ce qu'on a dit. In this party, we say what we will do, and then we do what we said. And friends, to make this point, I want to spend a bit of time to ensure that you always remember. We have done a lot to be proud of. Let's never forget, n'oublions jamais, que c'est ce parti, le seul parti, qui a réduit les taxes et les impôts pour les familles canadiennes et qui les garde à un niveau bas. Let's never forget, this is the party, the only party, that has lowered taxes for Canadians and is keeping them down. Every step of the way, the other guys, the Liberals, the NDP, they were all against it, but we started, as we promised, by cutting the GST from 7 to 6 to 5%. And never forget that because of the hard work on tax cuts by Conservative and only Conservative members of Parliament, opposed by all of the other parties, aujourd'hui, une famille moyenne de 4 personnes paie $3,000 par année de moins en taxes et en impôts que lorsque nous sommes arrivés au gouvernement. A typical family of 4 pays more than $3,000 less in taxes than when we came to office. That's car payments for a year. Now, friends, my advisor suggested I go through all the taxes the Liberals and the NDP have proposed raising, but we've only got this haul until tomorrow. Let's never forget that this is the only party that gets childcare and knows who's best qualified to make decisions for our children. We took money out of the hands of lobbyists, academics, and bureaucrats, and we gave it to the real child care experts, and their names are Mom and Dad. Et c'est pourquoi notre gouvernement a créé et maintient, contre la volonté de tous les partis de l'opposition, la prestation universelle pour la garde d'enfants qui envoie directement dans les poches des familles canadiennes $100 par mois pour chaque enfant d'âge préscolaire. And that's why our government created and maintains, against the wishes of all the opposition parties, the universal child care benefit, putting $100 a month per preschool child directly into the pockets of Canadian families. N'oublions jamais que c'est seulement notre parti qui n'est pas centralisateur, qui respecte les champs de compétences des provinces. C'est également notre gouvernement, contrairement aux libéraux et au NPD, qui a donné au Québec la place qui lui revient à l'UNESCO, qui a réglé le déséquilibre fiscal, qui a résolu la question de l'harmonisation des taxes de vente, qui a finalement donné au Québec les terres de l'Assemblée nationale, qui a conclu l'entente sur Old Harry et qui a reconnu la nation québécoise. Les Québécois, les Québécoises savent que notre gouvernement tient parole, que nous défendons nos deux langues nationales et la francophonie dans le monde. And friends, let's never forget, this is the only party that believes in taking action to keep our children and communities safe. With the Liberals and the NDP fighting us every step of the way, our Safe Streets and Communities Act cracked down on repeat violent offenders, sexual predators, and drug traffickers, and we passed it in the first 100 sitting days of Parliament, just as we promised Canadians. Mes amis, n'oublions jamais qu'on est le seul parti qui croit que ceux qui commettent le crime doivent purger leur peine en prison et non pas dans leur salon. Friends, never forget, this is the one party that believes those who do the crime should do the time, and that the rights of victims and law-abiding citizens should count for more than the so-called rights of criminals. Les libéraux et le NPD ont voté contre nous, mais nous avons mis un terme à la détention à domicile et aux peines à rabais pour les criminels violents et récidivistes. The Liberals and the NDP voted against it, but we eliminated house arrest and sentencing discounts for violent and repeat criminal offenders. And friends, let's not ever forget that only this party understands that you don't prevent gun crimes in our cities by cracking down on duck hunters. The NDP and the Liberals fought desperately to keep it, but it was only this party's MPs and this party's MPs alone that finally ended, and is the only party that will never bring back the wasteful and ineffective long gun registry. Let's also never forget, while I'm here in Alberta, that ours is the party that stood up for the right of prairie grain farmers to sell their own products. Once again, the opposition fought us every step of the way, but it was our government that once and for all ended the wheat board monopoly and gave our farmers the freedom they deserve. Let's never forget that only this party takes to heart the debt owed to our brave men and women in uniform. The NDP and the Liberals have opposed us at every turn with every investment. Mais notre gouvernement conservateur dans nos forces armées canadiennes le respect qu'elles méritent et l'équipement dont elles ont besoin. Our government, our Conservative government, is giving the Canadian Armed Forces the respect they deserve and the equipment they need. Friends, I listened to the roll call before I came out here from all across Canada. Let's never forget that this is the party that understands that Canada's greatest dreams lie in our highest latitudes. Les libéraux et le NPD ont voté contre. mais la stratégie de notre gouvernement pour le Grand Nord canadien continue d'aller de l'avant. The Liberals and the NDP voted against it, but our government's northern strategy moves forward. In every territory, we're fostering opportunity, development, and prosperity, preserving our Arctic lands and marine areas, projecting Canada's presence and defending our sovereignty, and something I'm particularly proud of. We are finally finishing the Dempster Highway so that our country will finally be connected by road from the Atlantic to the Pacific and all the way to the Arctic coast. Let's never forget that ours is the party that restored representation by population in the House of Commons while protecting the seats of the slower growing provinces. The Liberals and the NDP voted against it. But we have restored this basic principle of democracy in Ontario, British Columbia, and here in Alberta. Friends, let's also never forget that it was this party that took real action to clean up the mess the Liberals left behind. Despite their obstruction, we brought into place the toughest piece of federal ethics legislation in Canadian history. We passed the Federal Accountability Act. And friends, while I'm on this subject, let me address the Senate. On est le seul parti qui veut réformer le Sénat. This is the only party that has tried to reform the Senate. We were blocked by the other parties in the minority parliaments, and we're now being blocked in the courts. So friends, it is time for the Senate to show it can reform itself, something the vast majority of Conservative senators want to do. Friends, they have begun by demanding greater transparency in Senate expenses, and what that is showing is that there are a few senators who have collected inappropriate expense reimbursements to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. This was done knowingly or without regard to the rules over a long period of time. These senators have shown little or no remorse for their actions. In private life, you would be fired for doing anything resembling this, and Liberal senators continue to block action. Mais le Sénat devrait faire ce qu'il doit dès maintenant et suspendre ces sénateurs sans paix. The Senate should do the right thing now and suspend those senators without pay. Let me be very clear here tonight. As Conservatives, we believe that actions have consequences. Que vous soyez des parlementaires ou des membres du personnel, les Canadiens et Canadiennes veulent, je veux, on exige, que les gens soient tenus responsables pour leurs actions. Whether you are a parliamentarian or a staff member, Canadians expect, I expect that people be held accountable for their actions. You know, friends, and just on this, you've probably noticed this. You know, every single week, I face demands from our opponents that we immediately fire or expel people, often on the flimsiest of allegations. Then, when we decide that a case based on the facts requires serious sanction, our opponents immediately accuse us of being unfair, nasty, and ruthless. And then they portray the offenders as victims or even martyrs. Now, friends, what all of this tells us and what it tells me, in terms of such opponents, I couldn't care less what they say. We will do the right thing. Thank you for your unqualified support. Mes chers amis, nous gouvernons dans l'intérêt général et supérieur de notre grand pays. Contrairement aux autres partis, nous ne jouons jamais une région contre les autres. C'est pourquoi nous avons réuni chez nous les Bleus de partout du pays, unis dans leur désir de bâtir un pays toujours meilleur, un Canada toujours plus fort. Et c'est dans cet esprit que notre parti a reconnu la vivacité, la fierté et l'importance de la grande nation québécoise. Et quand je pense à 2015, j'ai l'espoir et l'intention de voir beaucoup plus de Québécois voter avec nous, comme l'ont déjà fait des francophones hors Québec, afin de prendre des décisions importantes avec nous au sein de la Fédération canadienne. Friends, we have kept our promises to Canadians. En fait, nous avons pris plus de 100 engagements précis pendant la campagne de 2011. En seulement 2 ans, nous en avons tenu 86. I can tell you, friends, we made more than 100 specific commitments to Canadians during the 2011 election campaign. In just 2 years, we have already delivered on 86 of those commitments. The latest was, of course, exactly 2 weeks ago today, when I shared a stage in Brussels with President Barroso of the European Union. I was there to announce the successful conclusion of negotiations for a free trade agreement between Canada and Europe. L'accord commercial Canada-Union européenne est encore plus grand et plus ambitieux que l'accord de libre-échange nord-américain. The Canada-European Union trade agreement is even larger and more ambitious than the North American free trade agreement. It is an agreement that will mean more choice and lower prices for hard-working families, un accord qui va créer des dizaines de milliers d'emplois pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes, an agreement that stands to create tens of thousands of new jobs for Canadians. As I said 2 weeks ago, this is a very big deal. Or as the Canadian Association of Manufacturers and Exporters put it, I like this one, the Wayne Gretzky of trade deals. With the completion of this agreement, our government has expanded the number of countries with which Canada will have free trade agreements from 5 to 42. Canada will now have free trade access to over 1 billion consumers, over half of the global marketplace. Mes amis, sous notre gouvernement, le Canada a aujourd'hui l'une des économies avancées les mieux gérées, avec des perspectives d'avenir parmi les meilleures au monde. C'est ça notre bilan. Friends, under our government, Canada now has one of the best-run advanced economies with some of the best prospects in the entire world. That is our record. And friends, let me use that record and let me use this achievement, the Canada-Europe Trade Agreement, to put into perspective the choices Canadians will face in the next election. What are the choices? The NDP? Est-ce que le NPD aurait conclu un accord commercial avec l'Europe? Le NPD ne sait même pas s'il soutient le libre-échange avec les États-Unis. Would the NDP have ever made a trade deal with Europe? The NDP can't even figure out whether it supports free trade with the United States. And Justin Trudeau. Est-ce que Justin Trudeau pourrait diriger l'économie? Could Justin Trudeau run the economy? En 2015, nous ne choisirons pas le gagnant de Star Academy. Nous choisirons celui qui va diriger notre économie. In 2015, friends, we're not choosing the winner of Canadian Idol. We're choosing someone to lead our economy. And I have to say it, you know, the only trade policy Justin Trudeau's been working on is the marijuana trade. So friends, work hard on the things that matter. Deal with problems as they arise. And Canadians will understand in the next election that the only choice, le seul choix, pour garder notre pays et notre économie sur la bonne voie est le Parti conservateur du Canada. The only choice to keep our country and our economy on the right track is this, the Conservative Party of Canada. This, friends, is what we were sent to Ottawa to do, and we are doing it. Le Canada est le chef de file du G7. Canada leads the G7 in job creation. Canada leads the G7 on the strength of our balance sheet. Canada leads the G7 in political stability. Mais pour notre génération et celle de nos enfants, il ne suffira plus d'être le chef de file du G7. Le Canada doit être prêt à affronter les meilleurs et à gagner. But we know, friends, in the future it will not be good enough to top the G7. We face new competition from rising economic powers, so we will not stop now. For Canada to prosper through the challenges of this uncertain world, we must do more, we must go farther, and we must go faster. C'est pourquoi notre récent discours de trône a présenté notre vision pour l'avenir. That's why our recent speech from the throne set out our vision for the future. Now, friends, when we say vision, we don't mean some ivory tower theory. That's what passes for vision among Ottawa elites. For something to be called visionary in Ottawa, it has to be a new government program with a multi-billion-dollar price tag, and usually completely impractical to boot, with no benefits for ordinary taxpayers or working Canadian families. Mes amis, la vision de notre gouvernement est d'assurer une vraie prospérité pour les vrais gens. Friends, our government's vision is about securing real prosperity for real people. It's about making sure that Canada is leading the world pour que les familles canadiennes qui travaillent fort, qui paient leurs taxes et qui respectent les règles puissent en profiter, puissent aller de l'avant. So that Canadian families who work hard pay their taxes and play the rules so that they can benefit, so that they can get ahead. Now, friends, Canadian families work hard to balance their budgets. So do we. Et notre gouvernement est en voie d'équilibrer le budget en 2015, and I assure you our government is on track and on time. We're going to achieve a balanced budget in 2015 as promised, on schedule. And we will enshrine in law our successful and prudent approach. Nous allons présenter une loi sur l'équilibre budgétaire, and when we're done it, we will introduce balanced budget legislation in this country. We're controlling the cost of government. We're freezing operating budgets. We're restraining hiring. Et nous alignons la rémunération de la fonction publique sur celle du secteur privé, and we're bringing public service compensation into line with the private sector. And friends, I should mention, one of the first things we did to do that our members of Parliament don't get enough credit for because they led it under this government and through our caucus. We have finally changed the law so members of Parliament finally pay the full share of the MP pension plan. We're creating jobs by putting more money into connecting employers with job seekers and less money into bureaucracy. We're bringing in more immigrants based on the skills Canadian employers need. And friends, in this party, in a united Canada, we accept immigrants who work hard, who want to see their kids get ahead, and who come here to be Canadian. Nous acceptons les nouveaux venus en tant que membres à part entière de notre famille canadienne. We accept newcomers as full and equal members of our Canadian family. We are also responsibly developing Canada's abundant natural resources, the development that pays for our hospitals, our schools, our social services, development that employs hundreds of thousands of Canadians from coast to coast to coast. And at the same time, we're preserving lands and marine areas and protecting the environment we as Canadians care so deeply about. Dans ce parti, on refuse l'idée que la protection de l'environnement empêche le développement économique. Nous voulons les deux. In this party, we will not accept that environmental protection must stop economic development. We must have both. Et nous soutenons et protégeons les familles canadiennes. Nous connaissons les difficultés financières des familles. We're also supporting and protecting Canadian families. We understand the financial dilemmas and choices that Canadians face. And we know that families are better placed to make spending decisions than governments. That's why we lower taxes across the board and why we're balancing the budget without raising them. C'est pourquoi nous agissons pour protéger les consommateurs canadiens et l'argent qu'ils ont durement gagné. It's also why we've been taking action to protect Canadian consumers and their hard-earned money, why we're taking action on hidden fees, That's why we will ensure Canadians can choose the TV channels they actually want to watch. That's why we're bringing more choice and lower prices to our wireless sector, because it is what is best for families, for businesses, and for this country, Canada. Et mes amis, nous poursuivons nos efforts sans précédent pour assurer la sécurité de nos familles et de nos communautés. Friends, we're also continuing our unprecedented efforts to keep our families and communities safe. We know that government exists to protect law-abiding citizens. The justice system exists to defend victims, not to help criminals. That's why during the last session of Parliament, we passed no less than 14 pieces of legislation to protect Canadians and their families. Now we're going further. Nous allons présenter une déclaration des droits des victimes. We will introduce a Victims' Bill of Rights. We will end sentencing discounts for child predators, and for the worst, dangerous, violent offenders, we will ensure a life sentence means a sentence for life. Finalement, mes chers amis, nous les conservateurs, on va toujours défendre la grande confédération que nous avons fondée. Finally, we conservatives will always stand for this great confederation that we founded. We will always put Canada first, whether that is supporting the men and women who wear the uniform of the Canadian Armed Forces today or have done so in the past, whether that means asserting our sovereignty over our entire landmass, the entire mass of this vast, beautiful country, défendre, que ce soit populaire ou non, dans les capitales étrangères, les intérêts du Canada et les valeurs canadiennes sur la scène mondiale. And that means standing up, whether it is popular or not, in foreign capitals, standing up for Canadian interests and Canadian values on the world stage. Mes chers amis conservateurs, fellow conservatives, these are great days to be Canadian, with great days ahead. In the next few years, we will mark great anniversaries, the great anniversaries of Canada's defense of freedom, from Queenston Heights to Vimy Ridge and Juno Beach to Cap Yon. Our 12-year mission in Afghanistan will soon be complete. Our troops are coming home with honor. Our athletes will go in search of Olympic glory, and we will see them wearing Canada's new colors, not just red and white, but bronze, silver, and gold. Nous allons marquer le 200e anniversaire des principaux fondateurs de notre pays, Georges-Étienne Cartier et John A. Macdonald. And in 2017, we will join together to celebrate the 150th anniversary of one of the world's most enduring democracies, notre Canada, le meilleur pays au monde, our Canada, the best country in the world. Friends, let me just conclude with this. We have a strategy, we are focused, and our plan is working. Nous faisons du Canada un pays plus fort, plus sûr et meilleur. We're making Canada stronger, safer, and better. And my fellow Conservatives, for your service to our country, I thank you. I know that is why, Canada, that is why you do it. Ours is not the party of entitlement, not guided by power or privilege, and we never should be. Au Parti conservateur, le service public implique des sacrifices personnels. In our party, public service must mean private sacrifice. That's why Lorene and I first left our home here in Calgary. We didn't go to Ottawa to join private clubs or become part of some elite. That's not who you are, and it is not who we are. We're in Ottawa only so the government of Canada can serve you and your families. And I tell you, we have an opportunity now, notwithstanding all the troubles in the world economy around us, to secure a prosperous Canada for our generation and for our children's and for all those unsung Canadians, the cab drivers, the small business owners, the farmers and foresters and fishermen, the factory and office workers, the seniors who have spent their lives contributing, those honest, decent, hardworking Canadians, old and new. These are the Canadians for whom we strive, and we in this party will never forget that. Mes amis, ce grand Canada que nous voulons tous et toutes aura besoin de votre détermination sans hésitation. Friends, the greater Canada for which we aim will take every ounce of dedication we can muster. But for us as Conservatives, there can be no higher purpose. So let's get to it. Merci et à la prochaine. God bless all of you for all you've done. God bless Canada.